keeps us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Howdy, howdy, ho. I am live. A little unprepared, but I'm live. So I plug my phone in. Gotta plug it in. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Got finished with the podcast. Just waiting on the speaker to send me a picture. No, get it out, but it's ready to go. Ugh. It doesn't take me long. All I gotta do is, well, the process is I have to download it, rename it, convert it to an MP3, put it in Audacity, compress the file, export it, and then it's ready to be set for a podcast. And I have to do that with the Podbean, or I have to do that with the podcasts. The lives, I don't do that with. I don't compress them because it's just my voice. But when you have two separate voices, what happens is one voice might be louder than the other, depending on the microphone, how loud they are. And so all it does is make it all kind of even. That's all I do. There are no, I don't do clips. I don't do segments. I don't even have anything written. I do no preparation at all. Is it not working again? The fucking chat. Fuck. Arrgh. All right. Now I'll go to here so I can see the chat. This is live. Hi Amber. Hi Michelle. For horror stories, not Dion, and here you are. Here I am. Here I am in all my glory with no chat. Restream. Restream. All right. It looks like it's streaming okay. So what I'll do is take away the permissions and redo the permission, but it will not help on this one. I apologize, even though it's not my fault. Actually, I should have done it before. So it kind of is because I was aware of the problem. So I will take some blame, but I will not take all of the blame. It is funny. So Amber said, I literally came onto YouTube for horror stories. Ha ha ha, not Dion. And here you are. You know what was neat about the podcast I just did? Sam told this story. Right. And what's neat is he's a listener. He's somebody that comes here a lot. I liked some of his chats and stuff, and so I asked him to be on. I'd never talked to the guy before. It turned out really well. It's kind of neat that we get to do those things here. The podcast tends to be for people that really, really want to talk about something. And since what I do is it is entirely up to the speaker on what they're going to talk about. And I will stay on topic. I support them. Sometimes I'll ask questions to get them somewhere, but I'll ask the questions that people are probably curious about. But other than that, I'm just a soundtrack. And there again, there's no editing, there's no clips, there's no takes. It's done in one shot, and you get what you get. And that's why it's called Raw Recovery. That's why it's called Raw Recovery. Welcome to Daily Trudge, brought to you by Trudging Together. Probably confuse people with all the names. They're just names of shows. So consider Trudging Together would be like NBC, right? And then NBC has different shows. All right. That's not a great example. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. The we watch. And I will, of course, go back and forth. It'll be a little bit harder because I'm reading, but I'll try and keep up with the chat on Facebook. YouTube. I have not had any Facebook watchers in almost a few days now. Almost a few days. What is this? That is not a bank statement. Does not feel like a bank statement. That's because it's not. Okay. Okay. So we're going to be in Language of the Heart, reading Language of the Heart, which was written in July 1960. And this is a good read. Been a while since I've read it. So let's just go ahead and get started. We're not going to read the whole thing as it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pages long. My workshop stands on a hill back of our home. If you're reading along, you have the book, you're reading along. I am on page 242. Actually, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this down here, and then, okay, hold on. I'm going to minimize that. Why doesn't not go to the side? Oh, there it is. So it's going to be kind of weird, but I can kind of see your chat now. And I'll show you what I did. It's going to look weird looking at it, but this is what I did. See, there's the screen that I'm looking at, but then there's the chat, so I can see it. All right. It won't pop up in the regular chat, but at least that way I can see what you're saying. So feel free to chat. I should be able to interact like we usually do. Don't fuck with my channel. I will circumvent your ass. All right. Year you were born, 1960. I was born 1970. September 18th, 1970. I was born about 4 hours after Jimi Hendrix died. No, I am not Jimi Hendrix reborn. No, I was hoping I was, but not even close. All right. My workshop stands on the hill back of our home. Looking over the valley, I see the village community house where our local group meets. Beyond the circle of my horizon lies the one world of AA. 8,000 groups, 250,000 of us. How in 25 years did AA get this way? And where are we going from here? Often, I sense the deep meaning of the phenomenon of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I cannot begin to fathom it. Why, for instance, at this particular point in history, has God chosen to communicate his healing grace to so many of us? What a great question. And you can go back thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and alcohol has always been a problem, right? So why is it not? I don't know, and I doubt they're going to be able to explain it here. Who can say what this communication actually is? So mysterious, yet so practical. We can only partly realize what we have received and what it has meant to each of us. It occurs to me that every aspect of this global unfoldment can be related to a single crucial word. The word is communication. There has been a life-saving communication among ourselves with the world around us and with God. From the beginning, communication in AA has been unusual and sometimes unique. Because of our kinship in suffering and because of our common means of deliverance are effective for ourselves only who constantly carried it to others, our channels of contact have always been charged with the language of the heart. And what is that? Let's see if I can communicate to you something of what it means to me. Now, I do believe that God did try. I do believe that God did try and send this saving grace kind of program. I mean, the Washingtonians. It's when the human will interferes. It's when it's when we start going for money or being more than we need to be that it starts to fall apart. It may go well for a while, but the Washingtonians they kind of they kind of attach themselves to a political party, right? So many in six. I'll explore how many there are today. Go for it, please do. Let's find out. So I believe that God, you know, I think he was trying. Just I don't know. I don't know. From the beginning, communication has been unusual. Um, been charged with the language of heart. And what is that? Let's see if I can communicate to you something of what it means to me. At once, I think of my own doctor, William Duncan Silkworth, and how he ministered to me with the language of the heart during the last shattering years of my alcoholism. Love was his magic, and with it he accomplished this wonder. He conveyed to the foggy mind of the drunk that here was a human being who understood and who cared without limit. He was the one who would gladly walk the extra mile with us, and if necessary, as it often was, even the last mile of all. At that time, he had already tried to help over 20,000 drunks. Wow, 20,000. That's a lot. And he had failed with nearly all. Only here and there had this dismal experience of futility been brightened by a genuine recovery. People wondered how he could go on, how he could still believe the possibility of help for chronic alcoholics. Yet he did believe with faith that never faltered. He kept saying, someday we'll find the answer. Yeah. Oh, see, there's more to William Silkworth than we know. Clearly, clearly there is, right? He had developed some ideas of his own about what ailed drunks. They had an obsession to drink, a veritable and destructive lunacy. Observing that their bodies could no longer tolerate alcohol, he spoke of this as an allergy. Their obsession had made them drink. Their obsession had made them drink, and their allergy was the guarantee that they would go mad and die if they kept it up. Here, in contemporary terms, was the age-old dilemma of the alcoholic. Total abstinence, he knew, was the only solution, but how to attain that? If only he could understand them more and identify with them better, then his educational message could perhaps reach into those strange caverns of the mind where the blind compulsion to drink was entrenched. So the little doctor who loved drunks worked on, always in hope that the very next case might somehow reveal more of the answer. When I came to him, his more recent concepts and tactics had begun to produce slightly improved results. So he was encouraged, and he went after my situation with something of an enthusiasm and hope of a young doctor on his first critical case. He told me what an infernal malady alcoholism is and why. He made no promises and he did not try to conceal the poor recovery rate. For the first time, I saw and felt the full gravity of my problem. I learned also for the first time that I was a sick man, emotionally and physically. As of every AA knows today, this knowledge can be an enormous relief. I no longer needed to consider myself essentially a fool or a weakling. That can be the hard part, man. We tend to feel like we are less than because of this, right? So, just checking some things. Because it isn't totally our fault. You know, I am under the belief, and it's got to be a belief and opinion because it has not been necessarily proven yet. But I believe that I was born with this disease, that it's just ingrained in my DNA. Okay? And I say that because, my brothers, my sisters, not all of them became alcoholic. We kind of lived in the same house. We grew up in the same area. But life was different for me. It was just different. Right? This new insight, plus the little doctor's account of a few of his good recoveries, brought me a surge of hope. But above all, my confidence rested on the understanding, the interest, and the affection he freely gave to me. He so freely gave to me. I was not alone anymore with my problem. He and I could work through it despite several discouraging slips. I truly believed this for quite a while, and so did he. But the hour finally arrived when he knew that I was not going to be one of his exceptions. He would have to begin to walk that last mile with my wife and Lois and me. Okay. Do you understand what the last mile is? It's death. That's what they're talking about. So when they brought it up earlier that he will walk the last mile with you, yeah, he's going to continue trying to care for you, even though you continue drinking, even though you continue going on, and he's going to be there holding your hand when you die. How many people in Alcoholics Anonymous are willing to do that? It's hard, man. And that's why we need the professionals. Nobody nobody with a mental illness that is dying from it deserves to be alone. They don't. Right? And that is a personal feeling only, not something that you need to feel like you should attach to or anything else. But, you know, anybody that's willing to talk to me for a few minutes just has a willingness for me, and that's kind of it. It's a hard one to balance out. So, but anyway, it was a verdict I would not have accepted from any other person. He had spoken to me in the language of the heart, and so I was able to receive the truth he offered me. But it was a terrible and hopeless truth. He spoke the name of science, which I deeply respected, and by science I seemed condemned. Who else could have driven home this indispensable principle on which every recovery depends? I seriously doubt that any other man alive could have done it. Today, every AA member implants in his new prospect just what Dr. Silkworth so powerfully lodged in me. We know that the newcomer has hit bottom. Otherwise, not much can happen. Because we are drunks who understand, we can use that nutcracker of the obsession plus the allergy as a tool of such power that it can shatter the newcomer's ego at depth. Only thus can he be convinced that his own unaided resources he has little or no chance. Yeah, the unaided will. My own resources. All right, my own resources were limited, although I had an unsuspecting inner resource, but I would have to do some things to reach that first. I was in precisely the state of inner collapse when, in November of 1934, I was visited by Ebby. He was an old friend, an alcoholic, and my sponsor to be. Why was it that he could communicate with me in areas that not even Dr. Silkworth could touch? Well, first of all, I already knew that he himself was a hopeless case, just like me. Earlier that year, I'd heard that he too was a candidate for the lockup. Yet here he was, sober and free. And his powers of communication now were such that he could convince me in minutes that he really felt he had been released from his drinking compulsion. He represented something very different from the mere jittery ride on the water wagon, and so brought me to a kind of communication and evidence that even Dr. Silkworth could not give. Here was one drunk talking to another. Here was hope, indeed. Now we're getting to it. A little bit of talk juice there. Ebby told me a story, carefully detailing his drinking experience of recent years. Thus, he drew me even still closer to him. I knew beyond doubt that he had lived in that strange and hopeless world where I still was. This fact established his identification with me. At length, our channel of communication was wide open, and I was ready for his message. And what was his message? Okay. Oh, hello. I guess chat for Facebook is working. I had to cover it up with because the YouTube chat is not working. So I have YouTube like over on the side here. Now this is what it looks like. See, I'll always find workaround. See, so I see me here. That's always fun. See how far it goes back. You know how far it goes back? Forever. Is that cool? All right. And then I have the chat over there. So welcome. Good to have you. Good to have you. All right. Too long. And what was his message? All AAs know what it was. Honesty with oneself, leading to a fearless moral inventory of character defects, a revelation of these defects to another human being. The first humble and faltering steps away from isolation and guilt, willingness to face up to those who we had harmed, making all possible restitution. A thorough house cleaning inside and out was indicated, and then we were ready to devote ourselves in service to others, using the understanding and language of the heart and seeking no gain or reward. Then there was that vital attitude of dependence upon God or a higher power. None of Ebby's ideas were really new. I'd heard them all before, but coming over his powerful transformation line, they were not at all what in other circumstances I would have regarded as conventional cliches for good church behavior. They appeared to me as living truths which might liberate me as they had liberated him. He could reach me at depth. But in one respect, I still backed away. I could not go for God because I could not believe that there was any God. Ebby sold me his other ideas at once, but not this one. I could not share his faith as much as I wanted to admit its very evident result. I had struck an impasse with which thousands of incoming AAs have since collided. Mine was exactly the kind of deep-seated block we're so often see today in new people who say they are atheist or agnostic. Their will to disbelieve is so powerful that apparently they prefer a date with the undertaker to an open-minded and experimental quest for God. Happily for me, and for most of my kind who have since come along in AA, the constructive forces brought me to bear in our fellowship have nearly always overcome this colossal obstinacy. Beaten into complete defeat by alcohol, confronted by the living proof of release, and surrounded by those who can speak to us from the heart, we have finally surrendered. And then paradoxically, we have found ourselves in a new dimension, the real world of the spirit of faith. Enough willingness, enough open mindedness, and there it is. Just, all right. I do a couple more paragraphs, and I think I'm going to go to the end here. When my own time came for open-mindedness and surrender finally came, the new world of the spirit burst upon me in a flash of overwhelming conviction and power, and as a result, freedom from obsession, faith in God, and a consciousness of his presence have remained with me ever since. Regardless of his subsequent ups and downs, the gift of faith instantaneously became built into me. My pride had a very my pride had paid a very high price. In despair, I had cried out, now I am willing to do anything. If there is a God, will he show himself? And he did. This was my first conscious contact, my first awakening. I asked from the heart, and I received. With this illumination came the vision of a possible chain reaction, one alcoholic working with the next. I was convinced that I could give the fellow sufferers that which Ebby had given me, and for months afterward I tried to carry the message, but no one sobered up, and a wonderful lesson came in out of the experience. I was painfully learning how not to communicate. No matter how truthful my words and my message, there could be no deep communication if what I said and did was not colored by pride, arrogance, intolerance, resentment, imprudence, or desire for personal acclaim, even though I was largely unconscious of these attitudes. Right? So what is the language of the heart? Well, it's freely giving away what was given to you without any thought. It's unconditional love. It's altruism. It's carrying the message to the next person, no matter where they came from. Doesn't matter where they came from. Right? We're all alcoholics, and material does not come into it. Right? So I'm going to do the last page here, and we're going to wrap it up. In the beginning, it was 4 whole years before AA brought permanent sobriety to even one alcoholic woman. Like the high bottoms, the women also said they were different. But as communication was improved, so communication is the language of the heart. Mostly by women themselves, the picture changed. Today, our sister AAs are many thousand strong. I'm watching more women come into the program than men at the moment. It may even be even. It's quite often I have the grassroots meeting, especially the noon one, and it's a bunch of women and me. The tides have changed, and good for you. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Right? I think it's fantastic. So the Skid Row man said he was different. Even more loudly, the socialite or Park Avenue stubblebum said the same. What's funny is our Park Avenue in Denver is part of Skid Row. So you can Park Avenue all you want, but ours, I mean, it's literally, Dion needs a wig. Okay. Oh, got it. No, because I'm not, I wouldn't make a very good midwife, remember? Oh, So the practitioners in the arts and the professions, so did the rich, the poor, the religious, the agnostic, the Indians, the Eskimos, the veterans, and the prisoners. But that was years ago. Nowadays, they all talk about how very much alike we alcoholics are when the chips are down. So I could be the midwife I'm meant to be. Is that what I'm supposed to be? Oh, what's his name? He does that. He always preaches as the black lady. I forget his name. I forget his name. So here's the thing: everybody that comes in thinks they're terminally unique, and here it is. People, oh, but we're different. We're different. You're the only one who jokes you need a wig when it's all the women. Oh, do I? Uh, I don't remember, but I believe you. I'm pretty sure I say that. All right. By 1950, this one big question remained unanswered. Could we communicate overseas? Could AA transcend the barriers of race, language, religion, culture, and wars? What about the Norwegians, the Swedes, the Danes, and the Finns? What about the Dutch, the Germans, the French, the English, the Scots, and the Israels? How about the Africans or the Boers, the Aussies, the Latins, the Japanese, the Hindus, and the Mohammedans? So Lois and I wondered a lot as we headed for Europe and Britain to see for ourselves that year. The moment we alighted in Norway, we knew that AA could and would go everywhere. We understood not one word of Norwegian. Scenes and custom and likes were new and strange to us, yet there was a marvelous communication from the first moment. There was an incredible sensation of oneness, of being completely at home. The Norwegians were our people. Norway was our country too. They felt the same way about us. It shone in their faces. Isn't that cool? That'd be cool that you spent 6 months trying to get other people sober, figuring out how to do it wrong, get one success being Dr. Bob, and then it just starts taking off. And then 15 years later, you go to an entirely different country, and these people treat you, even though you can't understand a word they're saying, they care. You can see it in their eyes. What a neat experience. What a great experience for Bill and Lois to have. That's so awesome. As we journeyed from land to land, we had the same magnificent adventure and kinship over and over again. In Britain, we met with the most wonderful love and understanding. In Ireland, we're at one with the Irish everywhere. Everywhere, it was the same. This was something much greater than people cordially meeting people. This was no merely interesting comparison of mutual experience and aspirations. This was far more. This was the communication of heart to heart in wonder, in joy, and in everlasting gratitude. Lois and I then knew that AA could circle the globe, and it has. Right? And that's the fact that we don't even have to speak each other's languages, and we know and we understand. There's just something about it, and you can't quite describe it. It's hard to describe that. So, all right, all right, all right, all right. Put that back up there where it belongs. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. There'll be a new podcast out here shortly if Sam will ever get his picture over to me. Don't forget about our 5 o'clock meeting this evening. If you'd like to join us, just let me know. And I will go try and fix the chat so it doesn't happen to us tomorrow. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. I do. Peace out and have a day.